SHSAT. Learn it with me!
Hello everybody, my name is Professor One-Eyed Berry from Berry Science Lab, and today we're going to be looking at some SHSAT, and we're going to be looking at the order of operations. Now, the order of operation is essential for many types of math, including compounded arithmetic sentences and many types of algebra too. So the order of operations is essential if you want to pass the SHSAT and possibly get into a specialized high school. Alright, now let's get to the gist. What is the order of operations? Well, let's say I have a problem like 5 plus 5 times 2. Now there are two ways to do this problem. The first way is to do the addition and then the multiplication. You do the addition, 5 plus 5 is obviously 10. Everybody knows that. Then you multiply that by 2, that gets you to 20. But then there's another way of doing this as well. 5 plus 5 times 2. You can do the multiplication and then the addition. 5 times 2 is obviously going to get you to 10. 5 plus 10 is going to be 15. Two different answers for the same problem? How does this happen? Well, how can we get the correct answer, you may be asking? It's actually pretty simple. Why? Because the order of operations shows you how to do this. Let's look at the same problem again. 5 plus 5 times 2. The order of operations goes like this. PEMDAS. Most people call it, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, and as you can see it evidently works out, but I don't really care about that abbreviation and instead just use PEMDAS. PEMDAS stands for the order of operations. The first letter, P, represents the first operation that should be used, the parentheses. Now this is a little bit more complicated and we'll get to that in a bit, but for now we're not going to cover anything else except the ones that we're covering in this equation. Now, M comes before A. Thus, that means multiplication, which is M in this sentence, this acronym. This M stands for multiplication, and since it's before the A, then that means you have to do multiplication before the A, which stands for addition. Thus, multiplication before addition is essential. That means, to solve this problem, first you do the multiplication and then the addition. If you multiply 5 times 2, you get 10. And 5 plus 10 is 15. Which means that 15 is the right answer for this problem and not 20. So, now let's cover the more complicated example. Right. Now let's compound even more operations. How? Well, let's say we have, and now we've compounded a lot of stuff together in what seems like a symbol, but actually isn't. So, this is our equation. 5 plus 5 times 2 times 2 times 5 times 2 plus 2 over 10 and minus 6. So this looks like a monster, but I'll show you how to break it down easily. PEMDAS. Oh, and let's compound a little more of this expression by using 2 squared, not 2. So first, what they say is do the parentheses. That means do everything inside the parentheses first. So let's look at the parentheses. 2 squared times 5 times 2 plus 2 over 10. Now, obviously, it calls for parentheses once more, as there are parentheses over here. So let's do what's in the parentheses. 2 plus 2, that's going to be 4. Now, what comes next? Exponents. We do have an exponent in this parentheses. It's a square, or the power of 2. If you explored our previous video with my co-teacher, Rifat Albert Berry, then you should know what this means. If you haven't, go watch it. So, 2 squared times 5 times 4 over 10. So we do the exponent first. 2 squared is going to be 2 times 2, which is going to be equal 4. And that gives us 4 times 5 times 4 over 10. Okay, now we have to do the multiplication. The multiplication here is pretty easy. So first, you just do all the multiplication. It's not really a first over here. So you get 5 times 4 over 10. Really in shackles, isn't it? And then after multiplying all of that, you get 80 over 10. Last thing to do, divide. There's no addition or subtraction yet. So 80 over 10 is going to give us 8, which means we simplified the parentheses. So 5 times 8 minus 6. So now do the parentheses first. We repeat the process. We do the parentheses first, remember. And the parentheses only have one operation, multiplication, so we can do that pretty flawlessly. Now we go exponents. Exponents doesn't really exist here. Multiplication, nah, nor does division. Addition and subtraction only exist right now. 5 plus 40, you have to do addition first. It's going to give us 45. And the final one, this S, stands for subtraction. So 45 minus 6 is going to give you a grand total of 39. Thus, this entire expression is equal to 39. That's how the order of operations works. And it's actually a very simple concept once you get to know it. So summarize what we've learned today. Today, we learned the order of operations, PEMDAS, which stands for parentheses, which means you have to do what's in the parentheses first. Then exponents, which means you have to do the exponent second. Then multiplication, which means you have to do multiplication third. And then division, which means you have to do division fourth. Addition, which means you have to do addition fifth. And subtraction, which means you have to do subtraction is the sixth and last operation. So that's what PEMDAS stands for. Now, we also learned how to do compounded operation problems. We learned how to do problems with multiple operations. So we learned how to solve problems like this or like this or things like that. So that's all for today, and we will see you next time.